Welcome to the Becoming Superhuman podcast, where we interview extraordinary people to bring you the skills and strategies to overcome the impossible. And now, here's your host, Jonathan Levy.
Before we get started today, I just want to let you guys know that this episode is brought to you by Onnit. From their awesome fitness equipment to their ultra high quality health supplements, Onnit offers an entire range of products to help you become superhuman. Check them out at jle.vi/ONNIT and use the coupon code GETONIT for 10% off today. Greetings, super friends, and welcome to this week's show. Today, you guys, I invite you to take a journey into one of my own personal, weird, geeky interests, and that's hormones. I spent a lot of time, perhaps too much time, thinking about the various hormones that control my mood, my energy level, my recovery time, my sex drive, and overall my performance as a human being. After listening to our guest today, I hope you'll understand why you should too. Hormones are some of the most important signaling mechanisms our bodies have, and they can make us feel great and healthy and full of energy, or depressed, overweight, angry, constantly tired, all sorts of really undesirable things. My guest today, fortunately, is an expert in all things hormone related. She's the national best-selling author behind the book, The Hormone Secret, and through her clinic, the Vitality MediSpa and Wellness Center, and her book, she's helped thousands of people reach optimal health through her unique focus on hormones. She's also recently been accepted into Premier Speakers, an honor that she shares with such greats as Arnold Schwarzenneger, Bill Clinton, and much, much more. So you know that she will not disappoint. In this episode, we're going to discuss what you need to look out for, foods and products that either optimize your ideal hormonal balance or completely destroy them, environmental factors to avoid, and so much more. There are a lot of really surprising takeaways that you might need to be aware of and you might need to take a harder look at in your own life because they might be screwing up your hormones. And so without any further ado, let me introduce you guys to Dr. Tami Meraglia. Dr. Tami, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that we were able to reschedule. I know you've been so busy, and so we really do appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. You know, I have to admit that I spend a disproportionate amount of time thinking about hormones and thinking about how they affect me. And I just got my blood tests back and I had these really great results that I'm super excited about. So I'm excited to share that enthusiasm with our audience today.
Well, I think people forget that how they're feeling actually is probably affected by their hormones. You know, hormones affect how we look, how we feel, and how we function. And if they're out of whack, there's just no way you can be at your best in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Let me backpedal really quickly, though, just for those who aren't familiar with your work, and maybe you could give us a little bit of biography and a background on why you decided to focus on hormone balance specifically in your medical practice.
Sure. Well, I'm very excited and blessed to be able to use the title National Bestselling Author of my book, The Hormone Secret.
Congratulations.
Yay! It was published by Simon & Schuster last April. And it's available at Amazon and bookstores and on our website, drtami.com, and that's TAMI. And it was really created because of my practice. And I used to be a regular family practitioner, an MD, and I would have my patients come and they would tell me how they feel, and mostly a lot of fatigue and sleep problems and losing that sense of joy and spontaneity and humor and the ability to laugh and enjoy life. And I would run a bunch of tests, you know, thyroid and anemia and all this. And then I would end up telling patients they were fine. And I realized, first of all, my patients kept saying, but I don't feel like myself. I'm not really sick, but I don't feel like myself. And that's when I realized that fine is a 4-letter word. And nobody wants to be fine anyways. We want to be fabulous. And so I started my education over again. You know, you'd think that 13 years was enough, but then I ended up going and getting a fellowship in naturopathic medicine and became board certified in functional and naturopathic medicine. And my focus was hormones and nutrition. And I really wanted to start with nutrition. When I saw people in my clinic, I thought, well, nutrition is your information. Nutrition is how you change things. But people felt so crappy that they didn't want to do the work or couldn't get their mind around it. So when I fixed their hormones, they would start feeling much better really quickly. And then we could use some extra work on fine-tuning nutrition after that. So that's how it all began.
Oh, I love that. It's something that I often get made fun of with friends or family, or particularly, the person I might be dating, because I'll say, I'm feeling so good. My hormones must just be all in check. My testosterone must be higher than normal. And I have all this energy and drive, and people roll their eyes, but it's so true. If you're out of balance, you can feel it, and you may not know that that's what it is.
Yeah, there's so many symptoms that people don't actually understand that it's your hormones. For example, women who wake up between 2 and 4 in the morning with their mind wide awake and don't really know why they woke up, that's usually a progesterone deficiency, yet their traditional doctor will give them a prescription for sleeping pills rather than checking for their progesterone levels.
Wow. So let's go into a little bit. I mean, we've talked a little bit about sleep. I certainly know that for my exercise regimen and my focus level, hormones are important. But what are some other reasons that people should be concerned about hormones? I mean, what are they governing in our body?
It would be a lot easier and quicker to talk about what they don't govern.
I figured you'd say that.
It's really everything. Your brain function, your bones, your cardiac health, your fat to muscle ratio, your energy level. There's just so much. Your temperature, just everything about who you are, your confidence level. It's all affected by hormones.
Awesome. Okay, so let me rephrase that by saying this. I think a lot of our listeners, and myself included, we know about the big ones, the testosterone and the cortisol and the estrogen. Up until recently, I didn't understand just how complicated the endocrine system really is. And I thought testosterone is good and higher testosterone is better, and estrogen and cortisol are bad. But I've learned that that's really a huge oversimplification, and that we need to think about all these hormones in a more complex way, and we need many, many more of them than we realize to survive. So can you walk us through what it means maybe to have the right balance of hormones in our bodies, both for men and for women?
Absolutely. There's an interesting comparison. Before medical school, I danced in a ballet company professionally for about 12 or 13 years. And
oh, cool.
Yeah. I like to think of your hormones as a symphony. And I got to hear the symphony a lot when I was dancing. But if there was one part of the symphony that was out of tune, the entire symphony wouldn't sound good. It's not like just because the violins are sounding terrible, the rest of it sounds good. No, they all sound terrible. And that's very much like our hormones. It's not necessarily just the one that's out of whack or has a deficiency. It's the overall imbalance that it creates that causes a huge problem for your overall energy and vitality and how you look, feel, and function. But luckily, we can reboot our biology and we can change our hormone levels naturally. You don't have to actually take it. One of the things that I find that is overlooked in women is their testosterone level. Lots and lots and lots of attention has been spent on estrogen and progesterone, but very little of testosterone. And it turns out that though women only need a fraction of what men need in a very small amount, it has an oversized role in their vitality. And there are ways that you can actually utilize your own testosterone and boost your own testosterone, because most women are pretty afraid of taking testosterone, and you don't need to.
Of course. That's something that I've invested in a lot, because I used to have actually low T. And I tell some of the women in my life, particularly I tend to hang out with a lot of very athletic weightlifting type people, women especially. And I tell them, you could increase your testosterone. They go, why the heck would I want to do that? It's like, well, you'd recover faster. You'd have more motivation. I mean, what am I missing here that women should know about testosterone?
It's basically the secret anti-aging hormone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When your skin starts to get saggy and droopy, That has a lot to do with your testosterone. When your fat to muscle ratio is becoming more challenging after the age of 35, and you either A, are the same weight but have more fat, or B, you're struggling to lose that 10, 15, 20 or more pounds, that's testosterone.
Wow.
Your bones, osteoporosis, osteopenia affect many women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Amazing results when you optimize your testosterone because it directly affects your body's ability to make bone. We have testosterone receptors in our brain. Testosterone is required to feel confident, and it's been used as a treatment for depression for decades.
I love it. Okay, so I know the things that I did. I mean, I went on a higher fat diet. I lifted heavier weights. You try to optimize for more regular sexual contact, things like that. But what are the ways that people, particularly women, can increase their testosterone? I imagine it's the same triggers for both men and women, no?
Yes and no. Turns out that women, they need some ingredients. Men do too, but there are some specific ingredients that if you're over the age of 30 or 35, your adrenal glands are now the primary functioning factory for the production of testosterone. And your adrenal glands are kind of tired. They're tired of your 24/7 lifestyle. They're tired of the project deadlines and the toddlers that can't get their own dinner ready and aging parents and 400 emails and traffic and. So the adrenal glands are the size of walnuts, and the adrenal glands have to deal with all of the hormones that are about stress, cortisol, cortisone, all of them. And they also have to start producing all of the hormones that bless your life, like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA. And they can't do both. They're small. There's a limited number of raw ingredients, time and energy. And stress trumps all. So your body has to be given the ingredients, the time, and the opportunity to make those hormones. And it turns out that for example, to boost the production of testosterone in the adrenals, there's a host of things, but two in particular that can make a huge difference. And one of them is called ashwagandha.
Okay.
And that's an Ayurvedic herb, and it tonifies and heals the adrenal glands and specifically helps your body to increase the production of its own testosterone. And the great news is that your body's not going to produce too much. Especially when it's already having a tough time. It's not going to go into overdrive all of a sudden. And the other one is maca. And maca is another ancient herb. And I love maca because it takes the testosterone that you already have and it's on a carrier protein and it kicks it off the protein. So you actually are getting more activity out of the testosterone you already have.
Interesting. So I'm assuming this is all in addition to you need the proper amount of sleep, you need all the ingredients, the healthy diet, all that good stuff, the weight-bearing exercise. But are these supplements applied to men and women or only to women who are kind of taxing the adrenal glands?
So it turns out that this is the recipe for women and men, but men need sometimes a little extra help. All of these doses and everything are what I go over in my book, The Hormone Secret. And it really does move the needle. That's what I do in my practice. I actually measure blood tests and urine tests and saliva tests. And we see that this actually isn't just an idea. It actually is proven clinically with objective data, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not my opinion. Nutrition is huge. One nutrition thing is that your testosterone levels drop after you eat sugar. They drop 20 to 30%. So I always say, if you're going to go out on a date and you're going to have dessert, there's not going to be any sweetness later on in the night because your testosterone's dropped.
Exactly.
We forget that what we put in our mouth, it's not neutral. It matters. Food is information. And so what you're choosing to eat and what you're choosing not to eat has a big impact on what your body is going to do. You would never put in corn syrup into a Lamborghini.
No, you wouldn't. I love that. I've cut all refined sugar from my diet. We're in the middle of a 3-part series on paleo. So as you can imagine, if I'm devoting that many episodes, I'm a pretty hard devotee to cutting out the grains, cutting out the sugar. I also cut out alcohol, and I noticed that has boosted, like I said, my recent blood tests have been just spectacular. So I think it is a really interesting idea that we want to increase the romance in our lives, and we do that with chocolate and alcohol.
I know, it's the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
And, the alcohol actually has a really interesting physiological, very easy to explain direct impact on your hormones. The liver is so important in hormones. People forget about it, but it activates your hormones. It converts your hormones. It gets rid of old, worn out hormones. It is a superstar with regard to your hormones. And if you're not cleaning out your liver and doing a detox at least once a year, your hormone levels can never be optimal, no matter what, because we're inundated with things that our liver has to deal with. And so it just gets congested. We'd never expect the filter in our car to last 40 years. It just is something that has to be cleaned out. But alcohol in particular is something that the liver makes as a top priority, and it has to deal with it because it's toxic. Now, there's lots of talk about how red wine is good for you. No, it's not. There's resveratrol in red wine, but in order for you to have the cardiac benefits of the amount of resveratrol that is in wine, you would have to be absolutely inebriated in order to get enough resveratrol.
Right.
Just take some resveratrol. Now, having said that, if you want to enjoy some red wine or some alcohol, I say it's a tolerable challenge to your body. It's not good for you. Please stop fooling yourself. It's not good for you. But in small amounts, it is something that your body can tolerate. That's
Sure.
like sugar. It does have a negative impact. It does. But in a small amount, as long as it's not a slippery slope, your body can tolerate it.
Sure. I want to go back because you said something interesting about being able to quantify. And, we've been talking a lot about testosterone and other hormones. I wanted to ask, because there is, especially amongst young men, there's this impression that more is better. And I think that's a dangerous thing. So while we're on the topic of quantification, what are the kinds of good values for, our average listener is a 18 to 30-year-old male or female?
Well, this is where I just go, there's so much information online that you can actually get falsely reassured that you're doing something that is simple, straightforward. Yeah, I'm going to increase my testosterone. I'm going to increase it to the optimal range of 15 to 25 in a blood test. But there's so much more. And that's where I have a lot of people who become patients. They hear me on podcasts and they hear other things. And we have a virtual medical clinic where we actually have appointments via Skype and phone with people all over the United States. And then when we start digging in, they say, oh yeah, my chiropractor or my doctor, I had low T symptoms, so they just gave me testosterone. I said, well, did they check your estradiol? Did they check your estrone? Did they check your prostate-specific antigen? And did they check your CBC, RBC, hematocrit, and hemoglobin? They're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Why would I need to order? Why do I need to know all of that? I said, well, some men, they convert their testosterone to estrogen, and that increases your risk for prostate cancer. And it's inflammatory, and it's going to make fat, and it's going to be the wrong direction. So you need to know whether or not you're the type of person that is doing that. And you cannot know that without checking.
Sure.
Also, a small percentage of men, they get thick blood. The thick blood is, you can see it in the hemoglobin, the hematocrit, and the red blood cell count. And your heart does not want to have thick blood. All the lawsuits and all the news, the hysteria about taking testosterone being associated with heart attacks and cardiac risk, that's not news. We knew this a long time ago. We knew that in a small percentage of men, they get thick blood. That's why you check.
Right.
But if you don't know what you're checking for, and you don't have somebody who has a comprehensive approach and the knowledge to see the 16-armed octopus, then you could be doing more harm than good just by saying, oh, I'm going to reach this goal.
Well, let me ask this. How can someone know if they may have a problem that needs addressing? I mean, is it something that they address by their symptoms, like feeling tired, or is it something that you discover in regular blood testing? And if so, what values indicate to someone that they got to make a change?
We do both. I use the lab values as a guide for safety, but I treat my patients. I don't treat the piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hormone quiz. It's free. It's on my website, and it has a free hormone handbook about the nutrition and supplement things that fit whatever hormone deficiencies you might have. And you might be surprised that these symptoms are associated with that hormone. So it starts with symptoms, and then we confirm with labs. But again, the labs are, well, is that adrenal fatigue? And we really should fix the root cause of this rather than just giving testosterone or just giving something. Or how are we supposed to approach this? Then I have other men and women who are in a deficiency state. They're feeling terrible. We increase their hormone levels, whether it be with nutrition and supplements and lifestyle, or by giving bioidentical hormones, or both. And they're not in the optimal laboratory range, but they feel fantastic. They feel so much better than before. Mm-hmm. So I don't say, well, we got to go higher.
Right.
We got to reach that lab value of X.
Right. So I guess a good guide is if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling lack of sex drive, if you're feeling depressed, all of these might be reasons to take that hormone quiz or take those blood tests and take the next step to figure something out.
Yeah. And if you're feeling like your life has changed, your energy has changed, your body has changed, then there's usually a reason. So you have to start knocking on doors.
Absolutely. All right, at this point, I just want to take a quick second and hit pause to let you guys know that this episode is brought to you by Onnit. I first discovered Onnit through Tim Ferriss, who also swears by their stuff, and I've had the chance to try a bunch of their products, from their chewable melatonin to their Alpha Brain Balanced Nootropic and even New Mood, which helps reduce stress and improve your mood. But Onnit has much, much more to offer, from ultra high quality protein to fitness equipment and more. Please take a moment and show support for the show by visiting jle.vi/onnit and using the coupon code GETONIT to save 10%. All right, back to the show. Dr. Tami, you mentioned nutrition, and as I mentioned, I'm a big advocate of paleo, but I'm curious, and don't pull any punches, but I'm curious what kind of diet you advocate for hormonal health.
So I'm more of a paleo plus, and I'm not sure if that's a word.
I like it, though.
Whether I'm making it up and that's my next book.
I like it. Paleo is really hot right now. You can sell paleo anything.
So paleo plus is what I tell the vast majority of my patients to do. The studies are pretty clear that plant-based protein like beans, legumes, and lentils are amazing. And they're anti-inflammatory. They're going to decrease your risk of dying from all causes. And their fiber is amazing for cholesterol levels. And they are just overall great for your body. So that's where the Paleo Plus comes in. I'm not a fan of grains for grain's sake. I think that what we think of as wheat and pasta and bread and cereal and granola, that's for your mouth.
Yeah.
You do not need that to survive. We would have become extinct as a species if we had not developed agriculture. And I think that there's something to be said for those protein-rich grains for our health.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because that's essentially what I'm doing. And we had Rob Wolf on the show, and he also said, if you eat the chickpeas once in a while, it's really not the end of the world. In fact, it might be the right thing to do.
Right.
So speaking of previous episodes, we had Ben Greenfield on the show, and something that he mentioned, and one of the reasons I sought out to interview you is because he said he avoids gyms because of, get this, perfume. it caused me to sort of dig. And what he was saying is that a lot of essentially soaps, perfumes, even household cleaners, they have all this nasty stuff in them that can actually screw up your hormonal levels, supposedly. So I'm curious, how much of this is actually a risk? How worried should we be about the household products, cleaners, soaps, things that we're using? And are they actually screwing up our hormones?
Yes, and yes.
Oh, wow. Just like that.
Yeah. So my second board certification is in cosmetic medicine, and I actually am in the final stages of developing an organic skincare line for people who have skin over 40. I call us people north of 40 because there's a lot of really great organic skincare, but it's great for moisturizing and maintaining. But if you want your wrinkles to diminish and your brown spots to go away and your pore size to shrink, there really isn't much out there. Other than the chemical filled stuff. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll have to come back when my organic skincare launches.
We would love that. In the meantime, what are some of the ingredients? I mean, I know I discovered this great website, ewg.org.
The Environmental Working Group. Yes.
Yeah,
it's an amazing source of fantastic information that is free from bias.
Awesome.
And I talk about this too in my book because it does affect your hormones. And parabens, like PARAB as in boy, EN. It's a methylparaben, ethylparaben, butylparaben. It's a preservative, and it is in your shampoo, and it is in your conditioner, and it is in your skincare, and it is in so many things, and your body absorbs it. And it acts like bad estrogen in your body.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Fits the receptor. And what's the purpose of this paraben? Well, it increases the shelf life so that the corporations can have a higher profitability. That's it. That's it.
Wow. So it has nothing to do with estrogens being in the perfume because it makes the woman more attractive, or pheromones or any of that?
No.
Wow.
It's preservative.
Let me ask this, actually. I was at a friend's house, and a friend of his comes over with an armful of these bottles of colognes and hands them over to us and says, I'm not wearing cologne anymore. I've switched to all natural beard oils. And of course, I asked him about it, and he said, well, I feel better and I have more energy. And I think there's something in the cologne that's screwing up my mojo. I switched also to all natural beard oils. Do you think, is cologne as bad as these soaps?
Well, yeah, there's lots of chemicals in them, and the colognes actually don't have to label them all because, quote unquote, they're small amounts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you don't really know what's all there, and your body absorbs it.
Huh.
And we know that because we have done urine tests of teenagers, urine tests of babies that have these chemicals in their urine.
Wow. So I thought I was getting more attention from the ladies because the beard oil smells so good. But it might actually be that my endocrine system isn't screwed up anymore.
Or both.
Yeah, it could be. It's pretty good beard oil. I'm a big advocate of it. I've recommended it to a ton of friends. There's nothing unsafe about some sandalwood rubbed on your face. So
No.
So what else? We've covered a good amount about the Hormone Secret. What elements of the book have we failed to maybe cover?
One of the things that I have in my book that people are always surprised because I'm a doctor is how to fire your doctor.
Oh, I love that.
I think that my job is mostly to inspire people to learn how to be the CEO of their own life and their own health. And, the CEO of a company does not actually do the bookkeeping, and they're not the person who is doing the transactions, but they're the person who makes the final decision on what's going on. So you might not know, the transaction of how that hormone is going to be optimized, but you have the final say. And if you have a doctor that doesn't listen to you or dismisses natural means to approach a problem, fire them.
I love that.
They work for you, actually. You're their boss. And a partnership is what you're looking for.
Oh, I love that. I subscribe to a lot of experts from Kelly Starrett to Rob Wolf, and Kelly Starrett talks about doctors who will tell you that squatting is destroying your knees, and Rob Wolf talks about all the doctors that he hears from that recommend a diet with full of healthy grains. It's like, oh my, just because someone went to med school does not mean that they're up to date and does not mean that they're unbiased, unfortunately.
Well, and there's just a lot. I've walked both paths, and I don't criticize the medical community until they make negative, dismissive remarks about something they don't know about. And unfortunately, that's pretty common. But I don't criticize them for not knowing. I mean, we had to lie and say that we worked 80 hours a week in medical school in residency because that was the law. Just think about that for a second. 80 hours a week.
Yep.
And it was full of learning about everything that can kill or harm you. And we barely squeezed it in. Wow. So there isn't a lot of time, and there just isn't. And I'm glad that somebody can tell that some weird sensation in the lower right-hand part of your abdomen and not wanting to eat is early appendicitis. I'm glad that they know that that's not something else.
Right.
But I wish they wouldn't poo-poo and dismiss and criticize things that they don't know about that are natural, because I think that there's so much power in harnessing the body's ability to use nutrition and specific targeted supplements and herbs and minerals to boost the function of our bodies.
Absolutely. I know Rob has been a big advocate. He's actually created a list of doctors that he and his listeners have interacted with who get it and are up to date with kind of the more Paleolithic approach to nutrition and fitness and all of that good stuff. So
I know, but it's so confusing, isn't it? Because then we'll have people who, in my practice, patients who will come to me and they've been kind of on their own because they just don't have a doctor that can be a partner in all of this with them. That's why we created the virtual medical clinic. Right. And they're listening to all of this great information online, and there's so much, but it is complicated, and not every single thing is for every person. This one particular patient, they were increasing their fat. That's a really big thing right now, that we're not eating enough good fat. And so they were increasing. Well, we did a digestion analysis, and we discovered that she actually is lacking the enzyme to break down fat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Who would have thunk it?
Wow.
So you need somebody who's going to take that great information and filter it and say, is this right for me? And yes, that's a great idea for a lot of people. A lot of people aren't eating enough good fat, but for her, it actually was causing her liver enzymes to elevate. She had a fatty liver. She had fatty stool. She was feeling sluggish. It was just awful.
Wow. I was going to say, when you said digestive analysis, I immediately thought, well, how does that work? And then I realized that's probably not dinner table conversation the way that test works.
I know, I'm the poo and pee doctor.
Right. I was like, maybe we won't go into that too much, how that whole process works. Dr. Tami, let me ask you this. We love to give actionable homework on the show. Every week, we like to give our listeners something that they can work on until next week's episode. So I'm wondering, if you were to give our audience one piece of homework that they have to do this week, whether that's a thought exercise or a conversation they should have with their doctor, or even something that they should read or check out, what would that piece of homework be?
Okay, can I give one more than one?
Of course, absolutely. I love it.
Take the hormone quiz. Find out where you're off and what nutrition, and you might get more than one email. I've had people who got 5 emails, and that's because they have all 5 hormone deficiencies. It is customized. Number 2 is there are studies that show that if you stand like Superman or Wonder Woman for 2 minutes, your testosterone levels go up by almost 30% just by doing that. So I want you to stand. You don't have to have a red cape, though if you do, you can. And then the last thing is to take whatever you're trying to work on, whether it be a change in nutrition or starting to meditate or exercise, and put it in your calendar as an appointment. But I want you to go one step further. Lots of people do that and it's still unsuccessful. I know that my calendar pops up with meditate, and I was like, yeah. We're designed to avoid changing inertia. We're designed to stay doing what we're doing. Even if that's doing nothing, we're designed to not change. Inertia is what it is.
Newton's laws.
Yes, exactly. It takes a huge amount of energy to change directions. So you're not going to do it. You're asking yourself to stop doing what you're enjoying and go do something that, by definition, you don't enjoy. That's why you had to make an appointment to do it, because you're not getting to it.
Right.
So I want you to dig deeper, and I want you to make that appointment and link it to your core values. Here's an example. My appointment reminder to meditate now does not say meditate. My appointment reminder now pops up, meditate so that I am full of strength, energy, and vitality when I get to meet my grandchildren.
Oh, I love it. I love that.
Try saying no to that.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. Literally, to prepare for this interview and get some inspiration, I was reading Gretchen Rubin's book, Better Than Before.
Oh.
And it's all about the habits and everything. And, that's exactly the idea.
Yeah, you have to go to a deeper place. You have to get to your why. And you have to get to your if this, then that. And you have to link it. And only then will you actually jump that hurdle of inertia.
Absolutely. And I also want to thank you for mentioning the Amy Cuddy TED Talk, because I'm now in the process of prepping for a TED Talk. And they keep telling us, if backstage we see you doing a Superman pose, that's okay. Nobody's going to laugh at you. Everybody make sure you do your Superman pose before you go on stage. So, I've been practicing that.
Oh, that's so exciting. What's your TED Talk on?
It is on accelerated learning and memory strategies and why we should be teaching children in schools basic learning skills, the way that we teach math, science, and history. So something that follows them through their education as they develop intellectually.
Amen. And add organization skills to that. I have a successful practice, a book. I have, a family and 2 businesses. It's not because I'm the smartest. It's because I learned how to get organized. That's what we need to teach our kids as well.
I couldn't agree more. That was one of the biggest things for me in dealing with my kind of learning disabilities is get organized and structure things properly.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. Let me know when that's going to be airing, and I'll share that with my tribe.
Awesome. I would appreciate that. Dr. Meraglia, I have just 3 rapid-fire questions for you before we wrap up that we like to ask all of our guests, if you have a minute.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the first thing is, what's one book that you've recommended above all others, not including your own, unfortunately?
Of course, because we've already mentioned that one a ton. Gosh, just one. I kind of customize things for my patients. So Brain Grain.
Oh, yeah.
That I think is a big aha for people.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really, really good one.
And then on the spiritual side, the 4 Agreements.
Awesome. Yeah. I recently read that, although I found that after reading a lot of Eckhart Tolle's stuff, it's like if I'd read the 4 Agreements first, it would have been revolutionary. But after reading Eckhart Tolle's stuff, it was like, yeah, okay. I get that, All right. What's the most impactful $100 you've spent recently?
You're maybe not going to think this is, but it is for me. Our family, my 8-year-old and 10-year-old and my husband and I went and did indoor skydiving.
Oh, that's so cool. A friend of mine used to own one of these tunnels, and it's such a cool experience. When
you do A, physical activity, and B, something that is new together, the chemical bonding that occurs is significant. So it's actually what I tell my patients who are having troubles in marriage, that they're required to go do something physical that neither one of them have done before, that's brand new to them once a month.
Yeah, absolutely. It promotes neurogenesis, right?
Yeah. And it just is those memories. So it was a blast. We just still talk about it. It was great.
Awesome.
Great money spent, the experience together.
That's very cool. Where did you do that, by the way?
Here in Seattle. This is where we live. They have one here. It's called iFly.
Yeah. So my friend used to be one of their franchisees.
Oh.
So I used to get lots of tunnel time.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last rapid fire question is this. If people in the audience take away only one learning or lesson from today's episode, what would you like that to be?
You have choices. And whether you think you're choosing or not choosing, you are. What goes in your mouth matters. What you do with your time matters. What time you get to bed and go to sleep matters. Whether you move your body, it matters. There is no neutral.
Oh, wow.
And I just want to help people realize that they can. It doesn't have to be this monumental, huge thing. Just start by standing up when you're on the phone.
I love it. I've been standing up this entire time, so I'm really glad to hear you say that.
Yay!
And what an inspiring message about choices. Dr. Tami, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. We're going to link up to the quiz and to your website and to your book and everything in the show notes. But if people want to reach out to you, want to learn more about what you're doing, where should we send them?
You can send them. They can go to drtami.com and then they can follow me on Facebook. My Facebook is not about promotions or sales. It's just recipes and quotes and studies that I hope bless people's lives. And that's Ask Dr. Tami. And that's Tami, Tango, Alpha, Mary, India.
Awesome. And we will, as I said, we'll put all that stuff in the show notes so people can check it out and get all linked up. Again, Dr. Tami, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and you've certainly answered so many of my long-standing questions, so I do appreciate it.
Well, I'm so blessed to have spent this time, and I can't wait to see all the insanely crazy, amazing things that you're working on this year coming up to impact the world and make each person be healthier and stronger. So anything I can do to support, just holler.
Why, thank you, and likewise. All right, Dr. Tami, I will let you go for the day, but let's do keep in touch. It's been such a pleasure again, and have a wonderful one.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, super friends, that's it for this week's episode. We hope you really, really enjoyed it and learned a ton of applicable stuff that can help you go out there and overcome the impossible. If so, please do us a favor and leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher or however you found this podcast. In addition to that, we are always looking for great guest posts on the blog or awesome guests right here on the podcast. So if you know somebody or you are somebody or you have thought of somebody who would be a great fit for the show or for our blog, please reach out to us either on Twitter or by email. Our email is info@becomingasuperhuman.com. Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Becoming Superhuman podcast. For more great skills and strategies, or for links to any of the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.becomingasuperhuman.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.